Welcome everyone to Spoiler Warning with myself, Tom Colohue, and I unfortunately have to start with a bad bit of news that you'll have undoubtedly got for the title. Mandy Rose has indeed been released by the WWE. There's quite a lot more information that I have to share here, but the main reason for this is the explicit imagery that has been shared as regards a leak from her FanTime account. There is a number of different reasons for this. I can tell you who came down with the edict, what had to be rewritten, who the original planned NXT Women's Champion to succeed her was, and how much she knew going into it. We will of course then have our usual question and answer session as we go through it, just to confirm that all the information that you guys want confirmed can be done. So, the information that I have, I've reached out and confirmed from a number of different sources. It's why I didn't jump on this one immediately. It took me a bit of information to have added before I jumped into it. Mandy Rose has been fired, effective immediately, for explicit imagery. They believe, and by they I am saying, the edict came from joint CEOs Nick Khan and Stephanie McMahon. That is who the edict apparently came from. They believe that Mandy Rose, by releasing the imagery that she did, is bringing the company into disrepute, and they are particularly aware of history, which I will not go into, regarding the NXT Women's Championship belt and the location that the imagery was recorded at. There is no indication that Triple H and Shawn Michaels wanted to fire Mandy Rose. They have not been behind this particular decision, to my knowledge. In fact, they were planning to continue using her and had scripted an NXT for this week with that in mind. Now, the imagery in question was explicit, but not necessarily sexual. I need to make this very clear. It was explicit imagery, but not necessarily sexual, and I do feel we need to make a very clear line between those two things, because they are two very different things. After all, the use of Mandy Rose's character was explicit. Her character role was explicit. After all, Toxic Attraction is based on a certain level of explicitity, but sexualization was not necessarily always the case here. This was not sexual imagery. However, the images in question were apparently taken on WWE property. So WWE property in a WWE location, a place that is owned and run by the WWE, and that is supposedly what had a large impact on her firing. The idea seemed as much as anything that she was using her work time to earn private income. This may sound silly, but let's get into more detail. WWE policy as regards private companies such as Twitch and Cameo has not at this point changed. There has been no change as regards Twitch and Cameo, even though they have not been paying as much attention recently. Dakota Kai, for example, has been able to stream on Twitch once again, but the policy has not changed. This does prohibit things such as OnlyFans, FanTime, and the like, and this is one of the main issues that the WWE had previously with Zelina Vega, who did launch an OnlyFans purely for cosplay content, but the WWE came in very aggressive, instructed her that she had to delete the account immediately, and released her when she did not. This does mean the company will now crack down on anyone outside of that policy. That does include the possibility that they will be re-examining the use of Twitch for people such as Dakota Kai. The planned next champion for the NXT Women's Championship already was Roxanne. If you're a regular here on Spoiler Warning, you'll probably be aware of that. Shawn Michaels was forced to rewrite NXT to expedite the process. A lot of what happened on NXT was last minute and via Shawn Michaels himself, rather than the planning and the writing teams that they have. Closest source to Mandy Rose herself say that she knew beforehand that it was going to be her last match. They did not confirm whether WWE told her so directly, just that she knew she would not be returning. At this point in time, based on the contract that she had, which is believed to be an NXT contract rather than a main roster contract, she will have a 30-day non-compete clause. She may also be entitled to a significant payoff due to being made to leave before her contract ended. As regards where she goes next, it's very, very difficult to say. I believe a lot of doors will be open, and I don't think it's impossible we eventually see her back in the WWE. I don't believe it's impossible. I also don't necessarily believe that it's likely. We have 55 people watching and only the 13 likes. Please remember to hit that thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already. As I get to the chat, I will be periodically repeating what I've already said there, which is why I scripted it out a little bit and took 15 minutes to do so, just to make sure everyone is as caught up as they can be. Ori's a draw, says Tom Colohue with some new graphics. Welcome, Ori. Says, sign that you haven't been here for a little while. We've been using these graphics for a little while too. Hope you enjoy them. Work of Psy T. Kieran says, not surprised to see her fired. I wondered if there'd be backlash from that pool video. The pool video particular is believed to be the most problematic section, particularly because, as I say, it took place on WWE property. Bailey says, any chance she gets rehired under a different contract with different terms and conditions? Very, very unlikely. As I said, the reason she was fired was because the co-CEOs believed that she was bringing the company into disrepute. Alex says, hi, Tom. Hey, Alex, how are you? Jonathan Rodriguez says, slow news day, huh, chap? Yeah, lots happening today on that one. Ed says, in other news, Suzuki-gun is done at the end of 2022 as well, which I really, really struggle to believe. Ed says, the person who asked Tom to go live today on Monday, your wishes come true. Yeah, I was scripting for an entirely different video that was going to be released today. I'd already started the filming process and I was just doing pickups when, unfortunately, changes had to be made and the news came through. I do want to thank Sean for messaging me on Twitter. I was not on Twitter at the time, and honestly, to be completely blunt, I didn't know about this until I got the message from Sean Martin, so thank you for the DM, Sean, letting me know that this had happened. I immediately started reaching out to whoever I could to find out exactly what was happening here. Trekipedia says, this was breaking as I went to bed last night, but I figured it was going to blow over after some time off. My guess is Nikita was originally going to beat her a stand and deliver. There was no intention for that. Roxanne was very much still in line to be the one winning the championship. I know that the news as regards Mandy was starting to break late on last night. I was asleep through most of it, woke up to it this morning. But as regards the situation where we are now, the WWE acted fast on it. The WWE made their choice, and there was very little actual thinking to be done. Joey says, hi Tom, why couldn't WWE have suspended Mandy instead of firing her? As I say, there is a clause in WWE contract for gross misconduct. If you are believed to be bringing the company into disrepute, they can fire you on the spot. There will be no suspension, there will be no investigation. Trekipedia says, Joey, it makes me think they told her to shut it down. She told them no, so they had no choice but to release her. To my knowledge, that discussion, if it happened, was very brief, and she was given no time in order to do so. Given the choice, I am confident Mandy Rose would have chosen to be a wrestler in the WWE. Justin says, what does this mean for Toxic Attraction? They have in the past experimented with Sonya Deville in charge of Toxic Attraction. I do believe they will attempt to go back to that. I say attempt for a reason. I can't go into too much detail, but there may be unhappy people in a faction of Sonya Deville and the tag team of Toxic Attraction. Michael says, going to have to disagree, which is your prerogative. Believes the pictures were sexual. What I am aware of, and I've got to be entirely blunt here, I have not gone looking for this. It's explicit imagery. It's none of my business. I haven't subscribed to any site. I have no right to see it. I don't have any intention of seeing it. To my knowledge, based on what I've been able to glean, they were not sexual. And from from the people I've spoken to, that wasn't the reason that she was released. Certainly, Michael, you may know more than me on that one. Trekipedia suggests that Tiffany Stratton will be put in place for Toxic Attraction to keep going. Christoph says, hi Tom, what a shameful situation after all the time she spent on NXT to improve her skills and character. Very true, she certainly has become a huge deal on NXT and someone that you would expect the WWE to be pushing very, very hard when she eventually returned to the main roster. However, At this point, that will not be happening. Venom says, I'm hearing talk of Vince coming back. That was the video that I was recording as this news reached me. More on that, I guess, will have to be tomorrow or next week at this point. I can release a short about some of it after all. Justin says, it's a good act adding Tiffany, but then you keep in NXT. Sean Swabby believes that WWE are a bunch of hypocrites. Certainly they've made a lot of money off the back of the fact. Certainly they've made a lot of money off the back of the fact that she has been openly sexualized, and that is a huge part of her character. That's what I was trying to say. Venom, I have no news on Sasha Banks. Wikipedia, okay, you're responding to Justin. Justin believes her career is done. Joseph Bellotti says, I know she has 90 days notice to become a free agent, but do you see Tony Khan signing her? Does she have 90 days? Ed, unfortunately, I don't have a breaking news that doesn't feature that mention of Sunday. So I made my choice. I stand by it. It's not perfectly accurate. We don't actually do a regular Sunday show anymore, but thanks for the heads up on that one, Ed. To my knowledge, she had an NXT contract after she moved down there, so to my knowledge, it is a 30-day contract. I can't begin to say what I believe Tony Khan will be saying. That's true, Bobby. That is true. It's worth remembering, of course, that, as I say, one of the main reasons for this was that it apparently took place on WWE property and brought the company into disrepute. Also, I don't believe they were able to confirm that particular person, Bobby. Not sure, but I don't believe so. Kieran says, I understand why they fight over a young audience, but they only suspend people who break the wellness policy. Wellness policy is an entirely different piece of legislation, which covers a multitude of different strikes. There are no strikes for this. If you're believed to bring the company into disrepute, it is over. Venom says, Mandy left WWE. Mandy has been removed from WWE. It wasn't her choice. Christoph says, hi Tom, great to see you. Also great to get breaking news here. I try my best to supply whatever information I can. Venom is happy. There's a spoiler warning on Wednesday. Turnbuckle Studios is here saying, good day Tom. Welcome, sir. Will says, when the pictures got out on the internet, did Mandy know that this might be the outcome? I don't know. Unfortunately on that one. I have no route to speak to Mandy Rose directly. Barry, I will absolutely not be answering that question. And to be clear, I do not want to see you ask that question again. Michael says, I thought for sure Mandy was main roster bound. Simon says, Mandy at least had a very historic NXT World title reign, the third longest in women's title NXT history. The plan was to go a little bit further. Unfortunately, that's not quite what we were able to do with this one. Christoph says, Mandy might be aware of the WWE rules policy, so I don't think we should feel sorry for her. Pure stupidity on her part. Sorry to be harsh, but I don't get how he can be so unprofessional. Now, this is something that a lot of people are going to disagree on. I, personally, don't see much of an issue here. I've got to be honest. I don't understand why she was fired. I feel this could have been done a lot easier, just via conversations. Particularly, as I say, to my knowledge, the issue was not the nature of the imagery outside of the fact that it was explicit, which is why I've said explicit rather than sexual. Now, I know this is not automatically something that we agree on, but the WWE does sexualize its talent and does make profit from sexualizing its talent. In many ways, the WWE sort of encourage talent to sexualize themselves. Look at the conversation, for example, about Mandy Rose, Ember Moon, and so on, the comparisons there. However, we're in a new era of WWE now. Nick Khan and Stephanie McMahon are in charge and in power, and they are planning to use that for whatever they are required to do so. Personally, I don't have as much of a problem with nudity as the WWE apparently does, because I have to phrase this carefully, and you guys know this. You guys know how carefully I have to phrase things at times. But I believe the world that we live in right now is becoming much less private every single day. Our information is sold if we're on Facebook, for example, about what we like, what we dislike. The internet means that we've had moments where massive amounts of celebrities have had their personal, private imagery stolen and sold off and shifted that way. We live in a world now where we have a Twitter account where we say everything we want and everything we do. Privacy isn't really a thing anymore, and a huge part of that is the rise of services like OnlyFans, which is the biggest service which provides this sort of content. She's far from the only person in the world to have an OnlyFans. It's also becoming a lot more expensive to live right now, especially where I am here in the UK. Most people need more than one job. OnlyFans does pay. We're also becoming, I feel, a world which is less invested in its own shame. People are less ashamed of the fact that they have a body. And that's historic, that's over centuries. There was a time when showing your ankle was a problem. You know, that's just a very, very, very different thing from where we are now. I've never understood this one, but that's just me. Kieran clarifies what it was. She was completely naked underwater and you could see her whole breasts. Justin says it was more than pics. Apparently she was rating male genitals if you Google. Justin, when you say if you Google, what is the actual source for that information? I'm going to need you to actually say exactly what it was. Just like exactly what it was, the site that provided that information. Dreckopedia says, Tom, the vignette of Tiffany returning at New Year's Evil seemed very new. Maybe they filmed it quickly in advance. Joey says, is Kylie Ray signed to WWE? Apparently she had a match on Main Event. She had a tryout match and the WWE were very impressed. Adrian Braquero said, according to Brian Alvarez, behind his own Twitter paywall, oh god, people have Twitter paywalls now, he noted that Mandy Rose was very much off guard by the firing, just saw this on Twitter. As I say, the information that I have is that sources close to Mandy Rose have informed me that she did know beforehand that it was going to be her last match, though whether the WWE themselves told her is a very different story. Yes, Michael Latina Wrestle Features is an asshole. His name is Brad Preston, for those who don't know. Good day, Adrian. Ed says the Tiffany promo aired on Saturday. It's unlikely the two had anything to do with each other. Cam says I can see her being in the Rumble, to be honest, like once the situation dies down. I can't. Kieran says at least if she wants to do OnlyFans fully now, she can, and she'll make way more than at WWE. Debatable point. If she chooses that route, certainly she has the opportunity to make a lot of money with the name branding that she already has, but she wouldn't be able to say Mandy Rose, for example. The WWE do own the name. Joey says, do you know what's going on with the Matt Riddle situation? The Matt Riddle situation seems to change every damn day. Every day the Matt Riddle situation seems to get worse and the WWE seem to continue choosing to support him. Simon says Mandy is going to be 3 days over the deadline to beat Saraya or Paige AEW Dynamite January 11th mystery tag team partner, given their past absolution history. Yes, but that would mean that AEW don't already know who that partner is going to be. Historically, that's something they've done a lot. Venom says, I hope Vince doesn't come back and take over Triple H. Do you see this happening? No. Why would that happen? There isn't... Venom, you watch Spoiler Warning regularly. You know that that's not going to happen. Dreckopedia says, I'm happy for Roxanne, but it sucks Mandy got released. This is something entirely independent. We can be happy for Roxanne becoming the NXT Women's Champion and independently be sad for Mandy Rose. The two are not in any way linked. Tommy B says Mandy Rose had a great run in NXT. What a sad ending. I agree on that one. She had all of this build and all of this momentum, and for it to end like this is horrifying. Turnbuckle says it appears that she's embraced the VIP site. It was not listed 2 hours ago, but is now back available of a higher price now too. I do think, after all, she needs an income now, so I'm not going to be angry at that. I don't know if that's where you're coming from here. I'm not suggesting that it is, mate. But I think a lot of people, for example, Toni Storm, launched her OnlyFans shortly after being released from the WWE, did very well from it. So if this is something she wants to do, all power to her. It's her body and she can do whatever the hell she wants with it. How is this difficult to understand? Go says, hi Tom and chat. I'm not going to lie, while the images were explicit, I don't think she should have been fired over it. Plus I also feel bad for Roxanne as her title win is overshadowed by this situation. I personally will be attempting to separate them as I've just done, but it certainly does cast a shadow and it's a real shame. I don't think that she should have been fired over this. Certainly, I think you could have had a discussion, a negotiation, and see what the situation is there, but they did believe otherwise. Lauren, welcome. Says it's really messed up. WWE wanted Mandy to sell sex, but only the way they want. Pretty much, yes. Jermaine says, thanks, Tom, for clearing this up. Now comes a major question. Assume that Tony Khan does make a call to Mandy's agent, talks about hiring her over there. Does this make WWE more likely to sign Sasha? There is no connection whatsoever between Mandy Rose and Sasha Banks. No connection in any way, shape or form. Tommy B says, Tori and Sable posed nude for Playboy while in WWE. Yes, and WWE agreed to do that. As I say, the main issue that they have here is that she was on a private site making money from the name and imagery of Mandy Rose without their permission. And they believe that she was bringing the company into disrepute. Mr. Floodwater says they fired Mandy but not Paige for the NXT belt incident, such an overreaction by WWE. Paige was not in the WWE when said incident occurred. When said incident came to light. Very, very, very different situation. Sean, what about Paige? As I said, she was not in the company at the time that her private personal information that she was not making any profit on, that she was not selling via a private service, was released. It is an entirely different situation. Justin says, I think that's the key part. This is Nick Khan and Stephanie sending a message. Kieran says it's better she's selling herself nude and not getting leaked. And anyone should be able to if they want. I completely agree. It's her body. She should be able to do whatever she wants with it. I also can't entirely sit here and say the WWE aren't within their rights to do so, to release her, as it were, because contractually, this does create a massive grey area. As I've mentioned, I'll reiterate at this point. This seems like a good time to reiterate. We have 105 viewers and 24 likes. Please remember to hit like on the video. It is a massive help. And if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe. We are currently in subscriber only chat. So if you're watching and you have a question, you haven't subscribed, please do remember to do so. Mandy Rose has been fired from the WWE effective immediately for the selling of explicit imagery. The edict came from co-CEOs Nick Khan and Stephanie McMahon, rather than, for example, Triple H and Shawn Michaels. The belief that I've been told is that Triple H and Shawn Michaels did not want to fire Mandy Rose, but the decision came from above them and they were powerless to prevent it. Now, from my understanding, the released imagery was explicit but not necessarily sexual. However, it is believed to have been taken on WWE property. This creates potential conflict of interest because she is making profit via private companies while actually in WWE property using her name, which is WWE signed, that the WWE own, and a physical image that is associated with the WWE. WWE policy has not changed as regards private companies such as Twitch and Cameo. This also prohibits things like OnlyFans, FanTime and the like. This was the main sticking point when Zelina Vega was fired from the WWE, that she had an OnlyFans that she was using for cosplay content. The WWE believed that association with OnlyFans automatically brings the company into disrepute. The company will now crack down on those private companies, meaning they will be re-examining Dakota Kai's Twitch account, for example, where she had largely been told, give it a shot, see how it goes, we'll let you know if anything goes wrong. Roxanne was already planned to be the next NXT champion. However, Shawn Michaels was forced to rewrite a lot of this week's NXT to expedite the process. It was extremely last minute and on the day that the decision was made. Sources close to Mandy say she knew beforehand that it was going to be her last match, though whether or not the WWE told her so directly is another story entirely. To my knowledge, when returning to NXT, she signs an NXT contract, which would mean at this point she has a 30-day non-compete. She may also be entitled to a payoff due to being made to leave before her contract ended. Austin says it's crazy to have her drop. It's crazy you have her drop the belt then release. Big mistake. Lauren says preach. Venom says Vince doesn't know what fans want if he comes back and controls it. He's not coming back. I've been very clear on that. Austin, once again, do you have a source on that? I just want to know what the source is on that. Joey says, are Gigi and JC going to be a tag team going forwards, or will they be solo acts now? They have not determined exactly what to do. So they've not determined exactly what they're going to do at this point. They're still working some things out. Connor says, I just think it's hypocritical. Talents like Riddle have breached contract multiple times this year and got suspended, whereas Mandy was dropped without chance to fix the issue. Has Riddle been suspended multiple times this year? Because I don't believe that he has. I'm not sure where you're getting that one, Connor. For example, the policy, the wellness policy no longer covers, for example, marijuana, which is what Matt Riddle is known to favour. To my knowledge, he has never actually breached the wellness policy. So we'll see on that one. Venom says, any update on Bronson Reed returning? Nope. Venom says, I'm glad there's a live because I had a lot to discuss. I was creating a video when this news was brought to me by Sean Cena. Thank you very much, Sean. I was creating a video about Vince McMahon then, but this may be pushed back to tomorrow, next week, this weekend, so on. Turnbuckle Studio says, WWE owns Mandy Rose, but her real name is Amanda Rose, so close enough to still have recognition, I think. I agree, but they would need to have the distance. Kevin says, no matter who's going to be the leader, Toxic Attraction is still not going to be the same. Correct. Venom says, do you think she will go to AEW? That depends, 1, if AEW wants her, and 2, if she wants AEW. Devil says, Mandy getting fired right after losing the championship, timing couldn't be any more impeccable. They decided to fire her before she lost the championship. I'm confident of that. Aled says, Sasha Banks and Bayley went live on Instagram. Sasha had blue hair and was like, where did this come from? Don't ask me, but I find that funny. Horsey says, an extra spoiler warning. We love it. We don't necessarily love it. I mean, this is information that isn't necessarily positive. I'm not always happy to be delivering certain pieces of information, but, you know, I do my best. Like, it is a monetized stream, so I can't say I don't have a vested interest in delivering the news as best I can as soon as I can. Venom says, if this is such a big deal, why did they let her post naked photos of the UK and NXT belts? Because the general rule is female nipples are not allowed. Note that I said female nipples and not nipples. Because, you know, sexism. Joey says, I saw a report that Triple H has been disappointed with some of the returns. You've been saying this for weeks now about Cross. Yes, I have indeed. And that is very much the case. Thank you, Michael Latina, for putting me over further. I would apologise for the crap that you got given immediately afterwards by Wrestle Features, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to. It just seems ridiculous, you know? That you should have to put up with that crap. Drekipedia says if she did post the pics on WWE property, that's not unusual for them to release her, sadly. I've seen other companies say even stuff like selfies are a fireable offence. Yeah, it was on WWE property. Dan the Man Boxing said, could this have been a situation where WWE warned Mandy to take down the content prior to her firing, but she refused to comply? It's not impossible that that is the case. Yes. Ooh, so, a few things I need to shout out at this point. Sean Seal for subscribing on YouTube. Thank you kindly, Sean. Appreciate that. We also have an Omega in the chat who has bought 5 gift subs over on Twitch. 1 to B-School Nick, 1 to Get the Tables, 1 to Bailey, 1 to Hector, 1 to Megan. 5 gifted subs from Omega. Thank you kindly for your generosity there. I very much appreciate it. Thank you so much. Ghost says, while the situations are different, I find it disturbing that Mandy got fired over explicit photos, but certain people who were accused of sexual assault received no disciplinary actions and are still employed. A large part of this comes down to the fact that the evidence was staring the WWE in the face as regards Mandy Rose, but wasn't necessarily so easily findable outside of that. There was opportunities for grey area with other people, and they conducted internal investigations that somehow didn't find anything. This unfortunately was inescapable. Eric says they are so protective of the Usos, who can start a top 5 in basketball with their DUIs, but they cut Mandy right away. As I say, different policy. Horsey says, smash that like, over 100 people. Tom deserves it. Thank you, Horsey, I appreciate that. We do have 104 people watching and only the 39 likes. A few more thumbs up would be a great thing. Austin says, so Stephanie's higher than Triple H? Yeah, she's a CEO, he's Chief Content Officer. He's an employee, she's the boss. Justin says, oh, that's it, can't be doing that on property. Also says, Austin, Triple H isn't actually the boss. He's in charge of creative, but Khan and Stephanie are the big chiefs from what I understand, and you are correct. Jonesy says, hi Tom, any chance Vince is coming back? Nope. Eric says, will they be stricter on Kofi and Up, Down, Down? No, Up, Down, Down is a WWE owned company. It's not a private company. The WWE own Up, Down, Down. So there is nothing to be strict about. Also, hi Jonesy, how you doing, mate? Been a little while. How you going with your Football Manager streams? Venom says, I was really surprised that Roxanne won now and not on the pay-per-view. Yeah, it wasn't the plan. Kieran says, I hope they don't just abandon Gigi and JC now. I hope not also, but unfortunately we can't guarantee we can't guarantee that they're going to not, because the WWE do have a habit of forgetting about people when they have to change plans late in the day. He also says, did you see Punk posting WWE photos on his Instagram? Is he trolling fans or AEW? He's trolling everyone, that's what he does. El Rodriguez says, now what for Mandy Rose? Well, if you'd like to support her, there are a number of different ways to do so. I'm sure over the next few days we'll hear about t-shirts, for example, at Pro Wrestling Tees. Or, to be entirely blunt, she does have subscription services, which now are her main source of income. So, if that's of interest to you, then by all means sign up. Omega says, as regards the gifted subs that he just gave, for being on top of the news, thanks always, Tom. Thank you, Omega. I appreciate that. Horsey says, news isn't great, but great to see top content. I mean, Tom, thank you for clarifying, Horsey. And yeah, we try our best to get as much information as we possibly can and just make sure the information that we have is crystal clear. I'll reiterate regularly over the course of the show and answer whatever questions I can, but it is definitely not great news. Gotcha, Connor. Gotcha. Thank you for the clarification there as well. Christoph says, can Vince come back in charge? No. No, it's that simple. He still kind of is in charge because he's the lead shareholder, but that doesn't mean that he gets to make any decisions. Rodriguez says, damn hackers. I hope Mandy Rose returns a little reconsideration. Pardon me. I never saw this happen. Joey says, can you give us a tease on this Vince video? Not at this point, no. As I say, it was still in the process of being recorded. But the information essentially comes down to a load of different pieces of information as to why Vince isn't returning. But the key finding and fact is Vince McMahon ain't returning. Thank you very much, Stan, for subscribing to the channel. We are currently in subscriber-only chat. If you've not subscribed but you do have a question, just click subscribe. Just jump in and click subscribe, ask your question, and join the chat. Aled says, could Triple H convince Stephanie and Nick Khan to bring her back if he really didn't want her to be gone? Justin says, not seeing article I posted in chat, it's Wrestling Edge. It's not a source, mate. It's not a source. Did they take it from someone else? But that's not a source. Jacopedia says, people told me last night the original main event was planned to be Braun and Roxanne versus Waller and Mandy. I don't know if that's the case, but certainly it sounds much more likely. Steven says, Mandy Rose should have been fired, but she will be back. Interesting. GameFF says, just join stream. Why she leave? I will reiterate in just a moment once I've got through 2 more pieces of chat, and we'll reiterate everything that's happened. Hawkins Jack says, they capitalised on her sex appeal for years, and now it's a problem. I mean, I agree with that. Suddenly she's capitalising on her own sex appeal, and they have a problem for her. And Rodriguez says, if it wasn't for social media, Mandy would have still been in WWE. Yes. Spot on. Absolutely true. So, to reiterate the situation with Mandy Rose as it stands at this point in time, Mandy Rose has been fired by the WWE for use of explicit imagery. This edict came from the co-CEOs Nick Khan and Stephanie McMahon, to my knowledge. Triple H and Shawn Michaels are not believed to have wanted to fire her themselves. The released imagery is quoted as being explicit but not necessarily sexual. However, it is believed to have been taken on WWE property, and it is in breach of several different clauses in WWE contracts. Namely, the clause that almost all contracts have from employers that you will not bring the company into disrepute. The WWE policy has not changed as regards private companies such as Twitch and Cameo. You are not permitted to make profit from the name that they own and basically your own image privately outside of the WWE. This also prohibits things like OnlyFans, FanTime, and the like. If those things are prohibited, as in fact they are, The WWE believe that any association with any of those companies is grounds for automatic dismissal. This is, of course, why Zelina Vega was told to get rid of her OnlyFans, which she was solely using for cosplay content, or be fired. She was fired and then got rid of it and came back. The company will likely now crack down on those private companies, meaning they'll be re-examining the fact that Dakota Kai is currently a Twitch streamer again. Roxanne was already the planned next NXT champion, but Shawn Michaels was forced to rewrite this week's NXT to expedite the process. Sources close to Mandy say she did know before the match that it was going to be her last one, though whether or not WWE told her that directly is another story. To my knowledge, she did sign an NXT contract when she returned to NXT, which means that she is currently working under a 30-day non-compete clause. She also may be entitled to a significant payoff due to being made to leave before her contract ended. Simon says hopefully Impact or AEW pick up Mandy next month, a big star given her NXT run. I certainly think she'd add a lot to the overall proceedings, and to be blunt, there are definitely people backstage in WWE who are not happy with this particular development. Both main roster and NXT, quite a few people have Mandy's side on this one, but I don't think anyone's going to stick their head above the parapet. Jonesy says, not streamed for a while, but thanks for asking. Hope you're well and all set for Christmas. So close, so close. I was going to a shop that ended up being closed today, and that disappointed me, but I'm getting there tomorrow. Stephen says Mandy Rose might come back at the Rumble. She will not be doing so. Jermaine says, hey Tom, just want to say thanks for the emergency spoiler warning and clearing up the Mandy news. This is why we trust you for the news on wrestling. Stay being the best. Thank you, Jermaine. I really do appreciate it. That's lovely to hear. Lovely to hear. I really do appreciate it. I also like the fact that we've really committed to the phrase emergency spoiler warning, because that's what we've been calling these for a while, and certainly it seems to fit the bill. Will says, was Triple H surprised by the release or talks about release of her? No, because he was told ahead of time. He just didn't have a choice in the matter. Eric says, bring someone like a Sophie Carson back down to be the new leader. Sophie Carson. Is that Triple M? Max Dupree. Rodriguez says, Kylie Ray debuted in WWE as Brianna Ray. I hope she gets a push. Technically still a tryout, but WWE liked what they saw and she is likely to continue. Ghost says, I'm interested to see how the NXT women's division recovers from such a major loss. Removing a focal point like Mandy abruptly can have a domino effect of morale dropping backstage, as well as decrease the quality of what is portrayed on screen. It absolutely can. I like the holistic approach you're taking there. Mandy Rose was a locker room leader. She took charge and she really pushed people forwards. She knew that moving to NXT was her last chance in the WWE. She knew that and she grasped it with both hands. She's done tremendously since. She's done amazing work. Her matches have been much better quality than her main roster work, for example, primarily because she's just had more time to do it. She'll be missed, and as I say, there'll definitely be a ripple effect backstage. There already is, in fact. Joey says people are saying that Vince can fire everyone since he's majority shareholder. Those people clearly don't know what shareholders do. Stephen says, William Regal, is he going to replace Bruce Pritchard backstage? No. Sam says, I'm a big fan of both Riddle. I hope Riddle gets clean because addiction is an illness. I hope Mandy well for her future pro wrestling career. Cool. Jonesy says, where can I find the Intercontinental Adventure? Not seen one on Torch since November 26. Interesting. They've been uploaded every week. But to be fair, Jonesy, they're on the Daily Cast now. So if you're subscribed to the Daily Cast, they should pop straight through. Rodriguez says, can Mandy return in the future? Possibly, though it would need things to cool off and certain changes to be made. J-Quick says, did they give Mandy a choice or was it no questions asked? I don't know. If there was a discussion, it was very, very brief. Okay, so we have someone advertising their YouTube channel, but I'll read the part that isn't an advertisement. The fact is Mandy Rose is dead on arrival after the situation happened. No one is going to pick her up. I disagree on that one. I disagree entirely. After all, there are people in AEW with OnlyFans accounts. Simon says, at least whenever Mandy goes next, she's going there with all the hype of her megastar. Very historic NXT Women's World-long title run. Agreed. Thank you there, Justin. Alex says, zero news is saying Mandy requested her release. I'll wait for more information on that one. As I say, Mandy Rose knew it would be her last match, but to my knowledge, she's been released. Been fired. Rodriguez says they'll lose a lot of fans on NXT TV because of Mandy. People watch for Toxic Attraction. Venom says, what has happened to Tyler Bate? I don't know. Connor says, Liv currently does Cameo, and I know Ronda also streams. We'll have to see whether they stop them abruptly. Ronda will not be stopped abruptly. Ronda's contract specifically allows her to use whatever means she wants in her own private work. The clauses in play for Mandy Rose do not affect Ronda Rousey in any way, shape or form. She's entitled to use her name, her image, for whatever the hell she wants. Drekipedia says, I think when WWE takes a look at Twitch channels like Dakota, it'll be decided if the content is explicit, and if it's not, they'll be allowed to continue. That is a guess, Drekipedia, let's be fair. Joey says, is Asuka getting a character change? Possibly. Rob says, maybe they slide Tiffany Stratton into the Toxic Attraction opening. 23 says, Fresh says, what happened to Triple M? They basically just don't have a plan for it right now. Hit Row were brought in over the top of them. Legado del Fantasma was brought in over the top of Hit Row, and now the Viking Raiders have been brought back over the top of Legado del Fantasma. So they've been pushed way down the card. No Venom, we should not have done an NXT watch along. I then wouldn't have been able to work today. I need you to respect the fact that I do have to work a full-time job, otherwise I don't have a home. So yes, I prioritise that. Venom says, do you see Alba Fire going back to Kaylee Ray? No. Jay Quick says, I wondered why Mandy looked upset and sad. She knew it was coming. Someone says, Mandy's not released. What's your source on that one? It's McCade? What's your source? Let me know that one. Venom says, I'm sick of Alba Fire constantly getting screwed. I wish they would just move her up. Eric says, Sophie Carson, now Maxine Dupree. Joey says, why is Bruce Pritchard still with WWE? Does he actually do anything? Yeah, he does a lot. He does a lot of production work backstage. Riley says, just seen this news. Oh my god about Mandy Rose. Now we know why she lost the NXT title. I thought that was weird, even though Roxanne Perez is amazing. Devil says, how long will the New Day keep hold of the NXT tag titles? Long enough, but not too long. Simon says, do you see Roxanne's first feud being against versus Cora Jade over the NXT women's title? I can definitely see that happening. Yes, makes sense. Astrid says, hey Tom, watching NXT I had a feeling she must have known. I feel bad for her and the way it played out. Me too, Astrid. Me too. I don't agree with things like this. I get where they're coming from with the whole private company thing. She is ultimately making profit off her image and did not inform the WWE as such. However, it is her body and she should not have to be hiding it if she doesn't want. It's her body, she can do whatever the hell she wants with it. I said it right earlier, I'll say it again that way. Jermaine says, I can definitely see HBK sliding Tiffany Stratton into Toxic Attraction. She really has been doing great work and gotten real better in the ring. It's McCade. If you've waited all year and now this, you just said she hasn't been released, so... Riley says, third longest reigning NXT champ. Nelson says, WWE stars are still allowed to use Twitch. The policy hasn't changed. Certain people have chosen to continue. And ultimately, there was a bit of looking the other way going on. Just a bit of looking the other way. However, that will not be happening anymore. Joey says, I wouldn't take Zero News as a credible source. He always retracts things that he reports and makes excuses. There has certainly been a lot of that. I mean, we take the good with the bad. Like the report recently about, what was it? About Gunter versus Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. That came out from Wrestling News Co. Zero News did have that first. We don't know if it's going to happen, but Zero News did have it first. But you also have to factor in the fact that Zero News also said that Sasha Banks and Naomi were backstage on an episode of Raw, but they didn't reappear because they ran out of time. Christoph says, I've been informed this morning that WWE was already discussing with Mandy about not continuing her OnlyFans stuff before adding her in Toxic Attraction on SmackDown. Who's informed you that, Christoph? Can you give me a source for that? Jermaine says, Tom, I think the problem was people don't understand what Mandy Rose did is completely different than what Dakota Kai and Ronda Rousey are doing. Yeah, it is completely different, entirely different. And there is a natural inclination that a lot of people have to compare one thing that happens to another thing that happens. But we do have to look at things individually. This is not the same as what happened with Paige, for example. It's not the same. It's not the same as what's happening with Dakota Kai, Ronda Rousey. It's not the same. Very much not. Rodriguez says Mandy will be even bigger in Impact or AEW or New Japan or Ring of Honor. Wherever she will end up, she'll be a megastar. WWE will want her back. Mark my words. I suspect Triple H already does. Austin says at least they didn't take Cameo down. Ghost says her body, her choice. Absolutely correct. Thank you for clarifying what I was trying to say. That's a much better way of putting it. Much better way of putting it. Jay Quick says, do you see the Usos going down to NXT to try and win the NXT tag titles to feud with the New Day? Nope, because that would mean the Usos taking losses, and that just doesn't seem likely to happen. Venom says, I wouldn't want to make you lose your house, I just want more Tom. I know, but calm down, mate. It's McKay says, I thought she wasn't because people on Twitter said she hasn't, but I looked into it and now this. Yeah. George Marshall Jr. says, there must be more to this, perhaps a last draw type situation. This is not over. We are still very early in the day. Very early in the day. I've got to be real clear on that one. More information will come out over the course of time, over the course of the next few days, over the course of the next few weeks, and I've got to be really clear here, we may never know the full story. There is a lot of wrestling news which has gone into the vernacular, which we think we know the full story, but we don't. We just don't. A lot of wrestling news that we do sort of make assumptions over. A lot of news that we'll see in a list somewhere that gives a third of the story or intentionally misinterprets the information. We have to respect that we don't know everything. Thank you very much, Durango, for subscribing on the YouTube side. Much obliged. Daryl Freeman says Bailey, Sasha and Roxanne are live right now on Instagram. And I imagine a lot of people are asking about this, so that's awkward. Richard Smith says, hi Tom, it's the dumbest thing ever. Her images are fully nude, just... Do you mean not fully nude? You said fully nude, just sexy. Less than 20 years ago, women were encouraged to pose for Playboy. Women are still encouraged to pose nude if they choose to. It's the independent part that was the issue for WWE. Alex says, Vince is like, how dare you to Stephanie right now. Richard says, what was going on with Dakota and Ronda? We are referring, of course, to their live streams. Dakota Kai has been streaming on Twitch again. Likely that will be re-examined. Ronda Rousey streams on YouTube. However, Ronda Rousey does not have a clause in her contract prohibiting her from doing so. Joey says, I could see Gigi getting a solo push since she's already the standout of the group. Is she? I'm a Gigi Dolan guy personally, but that might be because I'm just more familiar with her work. Venom said, instead of doing nothing with Tyler Bate and Dragunov, just put them on the main roster. They're great talent. Surely they would have great use for them. If they have nothing for them to do in NXT, they're going to have a lot less for them to do on the main roster where there's a lot more people. Dragunov, unfortunately, unlikely to be called up because he just wouldn't get the opportunities. Tyler Bate just unlikely to be called up. George says Riddle has an addiction. Vanity is not the same thing. Again, separate thing. Also, vanity I feel is a bit extreme. Appreciate get the tables there, Tony. Respecting Omega for the gift sub. Always like that little call out. Thank you kindly. I know quite a few of the people that received the gift subs aren't necessarily in the room at the moment, but I'm sure they will remember who was gifted. It's McKay says, this time last year, another star who was going to become a top star, Tony Storm, was released, is becoming a trend. Alex says, some fans on Twitter are saying WWE have made a mistake and they will reverse it because they've done it before. I don't know, though. It depends how quickly you expect them to rehearse it. Depends how quickly you expect them to... Sorry, not rehearse it, reverse it. Depends how quickly you expect that. Venom says, winds me up. They've got plenty of NXT UK stars, Jordan Devlin, but then they got nothing for Tyler and Dragunov, who are amazing wrestlers, just as good if not better than Jordan Devlin. It's McKay says it's Indy, Sasha and Bailey, not... sorry, one sec. Not Roxanne. Thank you for the clarification there. It would be very awkward if it was Roxanne, I've got to say. I expect people to be asking these questions. Joey says, I think it's because of visa issues is why a lot of NXT UK talent stopped appearing on NXT. It's also contractual. NXT UK talent have receive a lot less money. Elle says, Charlotte Flair did the same. She's still employed in WWE. Natalya as well. I don't get why they released Mandy. Charlotte Flair did not do the same. She requested permission for a nude shoot that would bring more prominence to the WWE. She was granted that permission. It's not the same thing. Natalya, to my knowledge, has never intentionally posed in any explicit manner. As I said earlier, the issue that the WWE had and what makes it explicit is, and I quote, the female nipple. Not the male nipple, not the male nipple, specifically the female nipple, because sexism. Richard says, didn't Toni Storm request her release? There have been reports that she did and there's been reports that she didn't. Joey says, do you think Piper Niven could get moved back down to NXT? Possibly, if she requests it and if they decide to let that happen. One final reiteration of the situation. Mandy Rose has been fired by the WWE for the release of explicit imagery. The edict came from co-CEOs Nick Khan and Stephanie McMahon. Apparently Triple H and Shawn Michaels did not necessarily want to fire her. The released imagery is known to be explicit but not necessarily sexual. However, it is believed to have been taken on WWE property and the WWE were not aware of it. WWE policy has not changed as regards private companies such as Twitch and Cameo. This automatically prohibits things like OnlyFans, FanTime and the like. The WWE believe that any association with a WWE talent and companies like OnlyFans, which are known for explicit content, is grounds for automatic dismissal. The company will now crack down on those private companies such as Twitch and Cameo, meaning that they'll be examining Dakota Kai's Twitch, etc., if she has not asked permission to return to it. Roxanne was the planned next NXT champion. Shawn Michaels, however, was forced to rewrite a lot of NXT last night to expedite that process. Sources close to Mandy say she knew before the match that it was going to be her last match with the company, though whether WWE told her that directly is another story. To my knowledge, on returning to NXT, she signed an NXT contract, which means she now has a 30-day non-compete clause. She may be entitled to a payoff due to being made to leave before her contract ended. Rodriguez says, I really hope she returns to WWE. That's her home forever. And Venom says, nipples are nipples, they're just nipples. I agree. Go says, one person who comes to mind is Sonya Deville when discussing people who are bound to be upset about Mandy's release. I wonder if the aftermath of Mandy's release could cause others to want to leave. Now, from what I'm hearing, and to be clear, I got this in the last 20 minutes, so I haven't actually been able to read the full message. It's why I keep popping over to my phone over here. I've not been able to read too much into it just yet and do much in the way of research and ask questions. But to my knowledge, there is definitely some unhappiness backstage, both on the main roster and additionally on NXT. Certainly there is a strong connection with Sonya Deville there. What I will say as well is that Mandy's Donuts, a company led by Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville, their YouTube channel was taken in-house by the WWE. A YouTube channel I very much enjoyed. They ate donuts and talked about them. It was great fun. That was taken in-house by the WWE, so there will definitely be debate as to her right to that content. Richard says, fair play to Mandy to even compete even though she got released. Venom says, so happy when I go home today, unbox Blue Universal title. On that note then, we shall move on from here. This has been an emergency spoiler warning, breaking news on Mandy Rose, with more information as I got it. Thank you everyone for joining us. We've had 54 likes, which is a pretty good number considering we've had 858 views. We take what we can get. And huge thanks to the new subscribers as well. I do want to say a massive thank you to everyone. We will be back live again on Friday for spoiler warning as soon as I'm able to finish the video on Vince McMahon and his supposed return. You'll be hearing more on that one as well. Also, just to be clear, are people a fan of more... Thank you, Christoph. Are people a fan of more spoiler warnings and emergency spoiler warnings? I know some of you are. I can't always do emergency spoiler warnings, but if I can, I'll certainly do what I can with it, if that's of interest to you. Thank you, Christoph. I see Sports Kida. I don't see a source for the quote that you've sent me, mate. I don't see a source for the quote. You sent me a quote, but you haven't sent me the source for it. We have to be aware of these things. Turnbuckle says, good show, mate. Thanks for the updates. Cheers, guys. Not sure, Eric. Not sure. It's certainly something that the WWE will consider. So on that note, then, I want to say a massive thanks to everyone. I've been Tom Colohue. You've been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.